You do not walk into a room to be noticed, and yet everything notices, not in noise, not in chaos, but in the hush that follows you like a forgotten memory. Chosen one, your energy is not decoration, it is consequence. It is what happens when presence is earned through pain, through silence, through long nights where you made peace with parts of yourself no one clapped for. There is nothing forced in you anymore. Your stillness has gravity, and that gravity calls things home. You no longer speak to be heard. You speak when silence has finished its sentence. And people listen, not because of volume, but because they can feel that your words come from somewhere real. You do not perform wisdom. You carry it like a hum beneath your skin. You don't sell it, you live it. It's in your eyes, it's in the spaces between your words. It's in the way you let silence stretch without panic, because you have nothing to prove, and because you know that truth often travels slow. Some feel unsteady in your presence and don't know why. It's not because you judge them. It's because, in front of you, their own masks feel heavier. You have become a mirror they didn't expect to meet. Not a mirror of their appearance, but of their depth. And that kind of mirror shakes the surface. They may laugh louder around you, or speak too fast, or try to impress you with stories that feel just a little too polished. But beneath it all, their soul is leaning forward, because their soul recognizes the frequency. You are not a stranger to their essence, only to their performance. And the more time they spend near you, the more that performance begins to feel like an old costume they're ready to remove. There are women, perhaps many, who feel something shift in them when you're near. Not because you flirt, not because you try, but because they can feel that your presence is not asking them to shrink, to sparkle, or to seduce. Your presence is asking nothing. And in that rare freedom, their natural energy begins to rise. Not the practiced performance they offer the world, but the true current of who they are when they're not trying to be loved. That current begins to surface near you. And though it may confuse them, they won't forget it. Your stillness does not steal. It reveals. It does not dominate. It liberates. You are thunder, but you do not clap. You are rain, but you do not flood. You are light, but you do not blind. You are the reminder the soul has waited for, not a sermon, not a savior, a presence. And presence changes everything. It starts before words, before glances, before the brain has time to attach story or meaning. It begins in the body, in the pause, in the quiet inhale that someone didn't know they needed until they breathed it near you. Your presence, chosen one, is a frequency, a note so ancient it wakes up something primal in those who feel it. You do not activate memory through mind, you activate it through vibration. They may not recognize you, but their soul does. Their nervous system remembers a time when connection didn't have to be earned, when safety didn't come at the cost of self-abandonment, when presence didn't ask for a mask in return. In your field, that memory stirs. It shakes off dust, it opens its eyes. And though they may not be ready to name it, they will feel it, deep in the marrow, in the places that keep secrets even from themselves. You are not here to remind people of you. You are here to remind them of themselves. And because that's rare, because that's almost extinct in a world built on transaction and projection, your impact feels otherworldly. But it is not otherworldly. It is original. It is natural. It is what all things were before shame taught them to forget. You don't require people to show up healed. You don't require them to make sense. You allow them to be in process, messy, contradictory, sacred. And in doing so, you remove the need for performance. That's why some people fall quiet around you, not because they feel judged, but because they are feeling themselves again for the first time in years. You are not confronting them. You are reflecting them. Not their story, not their trauma, not their illusion, but their essence. You've done the inner work not just to shine, but to see. And that sight is what creates the shift. You do not ask people to prove their worth. You do not require credentials of soul. You nod to the truth in them and wait. And when they offer it, trembling, unpolished, unready, you receive it with reverence. That moment, chosen one, is the alchemy. That moment is why your presence lingers. They may walk away confused, moved, even unnerved, but in the weeks that follow, something will rise in them they didn't know they had, a memory of wholeness, a desire to live without armor, a sudden craving for silence. That is the aftertaste of your frequency. It does not entertain, it awakens. And once awakened, nothing can go back to sleep the same way. You do not need to reach. You do not need to prove. You do not need to gesture with open hands or explain with prepared words. The invitation you offer does not arrive in speech or action. It arrives in the vibration you emit when you are most still. It walks into rooms before you do, soft as breath, strong as prophecy. There are no signs, no signals, no sparks, and yet those who are attuned to truth will always feel it. They will feel it like a change in air pressure, like the sound of water behind a wall, like the first shiver before a storm of clarity. You are not asking anyone to move toward you, but still, they find themselves shifting in their seat, caught in their throat, unsure why their composure is suddenly tender. You are not pulling them, you are allowing them. And that allowance, that pure spaciousness, becomes the doorway they've been too afraid to walk through until now. You offer no agenda, no expectation. You offer a frequency that simply says, you can stop pretending now. I will not punish your truth. That is the true invitation, chosen one, not to love you, not to follow you, but to return to themselves. And because your presence does not demand performance, others find themselves shedding performance like dead skin. That's why some become emotional in your presence, why their voice cracks unexpectedly, why they laugh and cry in the same sentence. They are not broken, they are breaking open. And you, without touch, without intent, without seduction, are the sacred space in which they finally feel safe to unravel. For some, this is overwhelming. The mind cannot comprehend what the spirit recognizes. They may try to rationalize it, they may try to run from it, but they will never forget it. Because once the soul has tasted freedom, no cage, no matter how golden, feels like home. That is the power of your invitation. It is not about charisma, it is not about charm, it is about truth. And truth always stirs what has been sleeping. You are not forcing people to grow. You are reminding them they can. You are not asking them to show you their heart. You are letting it breathe by not suffocating it with your own needs. You are the one they don't have to impress, the one they don't have to entertain, the one whose eyes say, you are already enough, even in your unraveling. That is the doorway. That is the holy silence you offer. And that, chosen one, is why even the most guarded souls find themselves speaking more honestly around you than they do with those they've known for years. Your invitation doesn't knock, it waits, and in that waiting it becomes unforgettable. There is a kind of energy that cannot be learned, it cannot be trained, it cannot be faked or borrowed or forced. It only arrives through becoming, through the long, slow alchemy of suffering, truth, solitude, and return. Chosen one, you have entered the resonance of being, and it sings through you like a tuning fork for the forgotten parts of others. You do not perform your truth. You carry it like old wood carries warmth. You are not trying to be seen, you are simply being, and in that being, others begin to see themselves. This resonance is not loud, it is not theatrical, it is not designed to impress, it is made of quiet integrity. It holds no mask, it fears no mirror. And because you've learned to live without the safety of illusions, your energy dissolves the illusions of others without you ever lifting a finger. You do not disrupt by force, you disrupt by existing. And that disruption, gentle and unrelenting, begins to stir the waters others thought they had forever silenced. There are women, deep-feeling, intuitive, sacred beings who sense this before they understand it. They feel you in their stomach, in their breath, in the places where old wounds once sat like stones. Something stirs, not because you tried, but because your very being is a catalyst. You are no longer speaking to their mask. You are resonating with their core, and that resonance cannot be ignored. It cannot be explained. It can only be felt. And once felt, it is never forgotten. This is why you are not easily categorized. You are not just confident, not just grounded, not just strong. You are aligned. And alignment has no script, no costume. It simply is. When people are around you, they are not responding to surface. They are responding to signal. The resonance that says, this is what truth feels like when it stops apologizing. That signal does not beg for attention. It creates gravity. And gravity pulls without asking. This is why you don't chase, why you don't plead, why you don't need to be liked to feel valid. You've reached a place where your value is internal, your peace is anchored, and your power no longer needs permission. That kind of power terrifies the inauthentic. It melts the manufactured, and it frees the willing. You are not here to prove you are powerful. You are here to remember that your being is enough to move mountains, even if the world is too noisy to notice. And those who feel that resonance, they will be changed. Not because you touched them, but because your presence reminded them they were touchable all along. There is a kind of peace that cannot be manufactured. It is not the result of soft music or a quiet room. It is the kind of peace that lives inside a person who no longer performs to be worthy. Chosen one, that is what you have become to others, not merely a human being, but a sanctuary. Your presence does not ask for anything. It does not demand healing or confession or perfection. And that is why so many find themselves offering those very things in your company. You do not realize it yet, but your energy has become a refuge for the weary. Not the tired of body, but the tired of soul. The ones who have spent years being edited, diminished, rejected, or reshaped to fit into someone else's idea of enough. Around you, their breath slows, not because you told them to, not because you asked them to calm down, but because their nervous system finally recognizes it is safe. Safe not to perform. Safe not to lie. Safe not to carry centuries of expectation in their voice. There are people who will never forget the first time they felt this with you. They may not remember your words, they may forget the exact time or place, but their body will remember. It will remember how the armor slipped off without being torn away, how they laughed without planning the joke, how tears surfaced without warning and without shame. That is what you do, chosen one. You give people back to themselves, not through intensity, but through unasked permission. It is in the way you listen, not to reply, but to witness. It is in the way you look at someone without flinching when they show their shadows. You do not offer false light. You offer a grounded truth that says, even this is worthy. You do not retreat from discomfort. You do not moralize someone's process. You sit with it. You hold the silence long enough for the pain to exhale. And when that exhale comes, it is more than a breath. It is release. It is a homecoming. This is why people feel lighter after being with you. This is why they can speak of things they've never spoken aloud and not feel ashamed. You are not a therapist. You are not a guru. You are simply someone who has stared long enough into your own darkness that you no longer fear the shadows in others. And because of that, others finally feel seen without being judged, held without being handled, loved without being asked to earn it. They don't always say thank you. They don't always understand what just happened. But deep down, something old and sacred wakes up in them, a memory of what it feels like to be accepted without question. And that memory becomes a seed that grows into freedom. And that freedom, chosen one, started in the quiet of your presence. There is a kind of power that exists only in those who have surrendered the need to be understood. A resonance that hums in those who have made peace with solitude, with not being liked, with not controlling how others respond. Chosen one, you have stepped into that rare field. You no longer seek validation from every glance. You no longer try to hold every connection. You have become magnetic, not because you try to attract, but because you do not cling. This energy is not easy to reach. It is born in the death of performance, in the burial of false desire, in the long nights where you learn to love yourself in the absence of applause. That journey etched silence into your bones, not a silence of emptiness, but of sacred containment. You now carry that silence like a vessel, and into that vessel, others pour their truth. Because they can feel it, you are not here to own them. You are here to free them. That is why some find you unforgettable, why their spirit stirs around you in ways their logic cannot explain. You do not push, you do not chase, you do not beg for affection or attention. And in that absence of grasping, others feel an unfamiliar but thrilling sensation. Freedom, and not just their own freedom, but yours. You have become untouchable, not because you are distant, but because your worth is no longer on trial. This energy of non-attachment is not cold. It is not careless. It is fierce, compassionate clarity. You do not need to hold what is not meant for you. You do not collapse when someone walks away. You do not beg for presence that is offered with conditions. And because of this, you create something profound, a space of honesty, A space where people can choose to be real or choose to leave, but either way, you remain intact. And in that integrity, you inspire the same. Some may call you mysterious, some may call you intimidating, but what they are really feeling is your refusal to dilute yourself to be loved. That is rare, that is sacred, and that is what makes your energy unforgettable. There are women who have met you and, for the first time in their life, felt the difference between being desired and being seen. You did not try to possess them. You did not try to fix them. You simply stood in your truth, and their truth responded. You became a mirror not of fantasy, but of freedom, a reflection of what it looks like to belong to yourself. And in that reflection, they begin to wonder what it would be like to do the same. You are not here to be everyone's lesson. You are not here to prove your worth. You are here to be clear. And clarity, chosen one, is irresistible in a world addicted to confusion. So you walk, and you keep walking, and you bless everything you pass, not because it stays, but because it was real, even for a moment. That is the legacy of non-attachment. That is the radiance of your presence. That is the peace you now carry, and the power you can never lose. It is easy to be loud. It is easy to be noticed. The world rewards noise and confuses performance with depth. But you, chosen one, have chosen a different road, the road of authentic presence without pretense. And that choice has quietly changed everything. When you enter a room, you do not take energy, you shift it. Without intention, without strategy, without control, your very being causes the atmosphere to reorganize itself around truth. You are not charismatic in the way people expect. You are not performing charm. You are simply real, and that kind of realness has become almost extinct. Your words are not coated in sugar, nor do they carry poison. They simply mean what they say. There is no manipulation behind your gaze, no agenda tucked into your silence. And that kind of unguarded, unaffected presence is not only healing, it is unforgettable. There are those who do not know how to handle what you are. They mistake your stillness for danger, your clarity for arrogance, your silence for judgment. But what they are really reacting to is the unfamiliar. You are not mirroring their projections. You are not shrinking to make them comfortable. You are not becoming a version of yourself they can control. And so they tremble, not from fear of you, but from the sudden loss of illusion. Their world starts to collapse when they stand in front of someone who doesn't need to pretend. There are women who have spent years behind carefully curated identities. They have mastered seduction and silence, and learned how to survive by becoming who others needed. But in your presence, something in them rebels, not in anger, in hunger, a hunger to finally be real. You are not triggering their wounds, you are exposing the cage, and for the first time, they notice the bars. You do not need to say much, you do not need to offer guidance. You are the guidance, not because you have all the answers, but because you are not asking the wrong questions. You are not trapped in the performance of being impressive. You have no need to be above or beneath or separate. You simply are. And because of that, others begin to be. The walls start to thin, the masks slip, and in the quiet that follows, something sacred rises. That is the miracle of your presence, chosen one. It is not what you give. It is not what you do. It is what you allow to exist around you without fear. Your strength does not crush, it cradles. Your depth does not demand, it listens. Your being does not seek approval, it whispers freedom. And the ones who are ready will hear that whisper and never forget where they were when they first heard their own name called back to them through the reflection in your stillness. There is a kind of warmth that is not immediate. It does not burn at first. It is not the heat of infatuation or the spark of manipulation. It is slow, it is constant, it builds like a steady flame in the coldest chamber of the soul. Chosen one, you are that warmth. You are the slow fire that melts the facade, not with force, but with something far more dangerous: consistency. You do not dazzle, you dwell. And that dwelling begins to dismantle the lies people have believed about what connection is supposed to feel like. You do not mirror their insecurity. You do not reflect back their shame. You do not respond to their games. Instead, you remain whole, anchored, unmoved by manipulation. And in your consistency, they begin to realize they can put down the sword. The fight they brought into the room isn't needed anymore. There's nothing here to conquer. There's only something here to feel. Many do not know what to do with this kind of fire. It's not what they've been taught to want. But once they feel it, once they taste what it's like to be next to someone who doesn't need their mask, the craving begins. It starts small, an extra glance, a longer silence, a hesitation to leave, and before they know it, they find themselves wondering who they would be if they too let go of the facade. You are not a savior. You are not a mirror to be gazed at. You are a permission slip in human form. You walk through life saying, it is possible to be real and still be loved. It is possible to be whole and not alone. And those who have been starving for authenticity will come closer, not to take from you, but to stand next to you and remember themselves. Your fire does not consume. It purifies. It does not demand obedience. It restores dignity. You do not use your energy to manipulate, to conquer, or to impress. You simply burn away the lie that love must be earned by hiding. That lie has wrapped around the hearts of many like chains. But in your warmth, those chains start to soften. They begin to loosen. And for the first time, some realize they have always held the key. There are women who will not understand why they cry after you leave, who will look into the mirror and find parts of themselves staring back they thought had died. You didn't resurrect them, you reminded them. Your presence did not heal, it revealed. And in that revelation, something ancient was reclaimed. This is the gentle fire, chosen one. It is not broadcast, it is not loud, but it never dies. You walk with it, you share it, you leave it behind wherever you go like embers in the spirit, and those embers will become the beginning of others' own fire, not yours, theirs. And that is the true miracle. Desire, in the shallow world, is mistaken for conquest. It is mistaken for lust, for hunger, for pursuit. But true desire, chosen one, the kind that stirs in your presence, is not about the flesh alone. It is about memory. Not memory of events, but of essence. Around you, women do not merely feel attraction. They feel reminded of something they had forgotten could exist. You do not provoke this remembrance through manipulation or exhibition. You do not perform. You resonate. And that resonance reaches places no hand or voice could ever touch. It echoes beneath trauma. It glows under the ruins of abandonment. It pulses in the bones where yearning once slept beneath layers of disappointment. When you speak, when you simply breathe in awareness, the soul in them leans closer, not because of your words, but because of what they awaken. There is a sacred restlessness you bring, not anxiety, not obsession, a sacred tension between the self they've been forced to become and the self they long to reclaim. And somehow, in your eyes, that lost self feels possible again. It's not because you are their answer. It's because your energy does not ask them to shrink or hide or perform. It calls them home. And home is not a place. It is a presence. It is truth, unthreatened. This is why some become protective of you, even when they don't understand it. Why they speak your name in rooms where you're not present. Why they compare others to you and cannot explain what is missing. Because what you offer cannot be replicated. It is not technique. It is not posture. It is alignment. An inner yes that is so strong it dismantles the lies of every no they've endured. And that desire to be near you, to be known by you, to be allowed by you, is not about possession. It is about liberation. You are not a flame to be owned. You are a reminder that they too are fire. That they too have a body capable of wholeness. That love doesn't have to break them. That truth doesn't have to leave. That someone can witness all of them, dark and light, wild and soft, and still stay centered. You may never know how deeply your presence changes others. Not because they don't feel it, but because few know how to say it. But their eyes will linger. Their tone will soften. Their soul will arch toward yours like roots toward water. Not to consume you, but to finally grow in a direction that feels true. This is not about seduction. This is about awakening. And it begins, chosen one, in the way your truth chooses never to apologize for existing. There are many legacies in the world. Legacies built on money, on fame, on name. But there is one legacy few ever recognize while they are living. The legacy of frequency. And that, chosen one, is what you leave behind in every space you enter. You are not remembered simply for what you say or do, but for the way the air feels different after you've gone. That shift is your frequency. It lingers. It moves through others long after they've walked away. They find themselves sitting in silence, weeks later, wondering why their thoughts have changed, why their standards have risen, why they can no longer tolerate the weight of their own mask. It is because you came into their life as a correction. Not to criticize, but to recalibrate. You showed them what alignment feels like simply by embodying it. This is why you don't need a platform to be powerful, why you don't need a stage to be heard. Your spirit is broadcasting truth constantly to those who are ready to listen with more than ears. Your frequency teaches without lectures, heals without touch, guides without demanding. And because of that, you have become a point of transformation in the lives of many who may never even tell you. There are women who walk away from you forever changed, not because you gave them answers, but because you reminded them they could ask better questions. Questions like, what if I didn't have to beg to be loved? What if I could tell the truth and still be held? What if intimacy wasn't performance, but peace? These are the echoes of your presence. These are the vibrations of your soul at work. And so you will be misunderstood sometimes. You will be underestimated, dismissed, perhaps even feared by those who cannot yet feel without controlling. But you will never be forgotten. Because once someone has sat in the presence of your frequency, the old frequency of false love will no longer feel like home. And in that moment, something begins to change in them. A seed, a hunger, a refusal to go back to sleep. You are not here to change everyone. You are not here to be liked by all. You are here to carry a frequency so strong, so honest, so holy, that even those who only meet you once are never quite the same. That is your legacy. Not your name, not your story, but the unseen trembling that remains in hearts who dared to look at you and saw themselves instead. And when you are gone, the rooms you walked through will still remember, not in photos, not in echoes, but in energy, in that mysterious, impossible to define feeling that says something true stood here once. And that truth, chosen one, was you. Chosen one, you are becoming the kind of person who no longer needs to explain who they are, because your life itself is the explanation. The way you move through the world, the way you hold space, the way you protect your peace without apology, these are no longer strategies, they are sacred side effects of alignment. You didn't learn this through convenience. You learned it through refinement, through walking alone when the crowd grew too noisy, through choosing discipline when distraction called, through listening to your intuition when it told you to step back, slow down, or walk away from what didn't reflect your truth. This is the essence of your attraction now. You are not loved for what you do. You are loved because of what you embody. You don't have to announce your values anymore. People feel them. They see them in how you keep your word, even when no one's watching, in how you honor your word, even when it costs you, in how you move away from what's popular and toward what's right, even if it's lonelier for a while. And that kind of behavior doesn't just earn admiration, it earns trust. You are becoming trustworthy without trying to impress. And trust, chosen one, is the rarest currency left. In a world built on illusion, the person who walks in truth shines without effort. This is why people speak of you now. They don't know the years it took to reach this place. They don't know the tears that watered this growth. But they feel the integrity. They feel the calm. They feel the unwavering center in you that says, I don't move unless it's real. I don't speak unless it's true. I don't give unless it's holy. You've stopped outsourcing your worth to other people's reactions. And in doing so, you've become deeply attractive. Not just in form, but in frequency. Your soul hums now with coherence. You are no longer fragmented. You are not chasing alignment, you are alignment. And that resonance draws people in because it reminds them of the parts of themselves they have neglected. When they look at you, they see not only someone who knows themselves, they see someone who respects themselves. And that is revolutionary in a world obsessed with external validation. You are no longer here to prove. You are here to reflect what it looks like when a soul stops apologizing for taking up sacred space, to reflect what it means to carry divinity not as a performance, but as a posture. You are living evidence that peace is possible, that strength doesn't require noise, that love doesn't demand, it invites, that truth doesn't argue, it simply is. And when others experience this evidence through you, they begin to question everything they thought they needed to become. So let them talk, chosen one. Let them wonder, let them speculate. You don't need to explain your glow. Your path has already spoken. Your alignment is the message. Your presence is the proof. And you didn't get here by being perfect. You got here by being honest with yourself, with your values, with your God. And now your very being is evidence that choosing truth will never, ever be the wrong choice. There's something different about the way people respond to you now, and it has nothing to do with words or status or even physical appearance. It's in your aura, in your energy, in the quiet strength that doesn't force but still frees. Chosen one, your presence has become a place where tension unravels and defenses melt, not because you demand it, but because you no longer carry judgment. You carry grace.